Welcome to Season 5 of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast with Adina, Brian, Cris, and Steve, the biggest sci-fi podcast in the galaxy. The adventure is just beginning here at the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, and we invite you to come aboard the Starship Tangent. We know you'll enjoy the conversation, the laughter, the banter back and forth, and most of all, friends who love hanging out to talk about all things science fiction. Set your phasers to fun. Here we go. And welcome to the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. I am your impromptu host tonight, Brian Donahue, here from the great state of Ohio. We are not happy this week since the Michigan Wolverines won the national championship, but
Outraged. The what?
I'm
really
curious about this.
My brother-in-law he was a Husky. I feel bad for him.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that was an embarrassing game. That was embarrassing.
I was fuming all day about it.
No, you weren't. Anyways, I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this very special episode of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. We had a special guest scheduled this week, but because of technical difficulties, we had to reschedule. So stay tuned. That is coming. You don't want to miss that. But today we're entitling our episode The Big Sci-Fi Podcast Jam Session, because everything is... Steve, we asked you not to sing, brother. I'm just kidding.
Just jamming on my guitar.
It's not like we had that in a contract, although we might want to add that for future references, guys. But just kidding. Love you, bro. We're just going to talk about anything and everything that pops into our heads tonight. Usually we have a scheduled list and things we want to talk about, a movie, a TV show, an episode. We have authors, we have writers, we have set designers and graphic artists, sorts of people.
We have authors and writers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Wait.
We have both.
Is an author a published writer?
I think.
No.
Oh my goodness.
Let's get out Webster.
This is what happens when we don't have a list.
Webster and Daniel Webster's dictionary.
So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Adina Mignona.
Hi, everybody. I'm an author and a writer.
Yeah. Christian
She's
Fox.
a double whammy.
Hey,
Christian
everyone.
Fox from the great country of Canada.
Yes, I'm from Canada, and I don't know I said it that way. And I want to be a writer, and that I would love to have a published, this is hard. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'd love to have a book, but I also really wanted to write a pilot, which I'm supposed to do next semester.
Nice.
So excited.
Nice. And Mr. Steve Merkin from the freezing cold state of California, at least in the morning today.
Oh,
Wow.
we had a freeze warning. It was 37. Oh my God, out here in California. And as far as writing goes, just because you're not published doesn't mean you can't write. Welcome to my world.
Absolutely right. If you want to write, you should write and see what happens. So, guys, I don't know what that means, but we're just going to talk about what we've been watching, reading, and anything else that comes up. Let's start with Adina, guys, just because I think she left our Zoom video room to go grab a few items so that she could discuss them with us. So let's let Adina go first, and then, depending on how often we interrupt her, we'll see how long we'll stay with Adina. So
okay,
Sure. I'll try to not go too crazy, but from the watching standpoint, I think I tell everybody about my treadmill shows where I have one show at a time where I'm only allowed to watch it if I'm on the treadmill.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's science fiction. Like it was recently Foundation until I got to the end of where they are on Foundation, which I have to say is so amazing and incredible. It doesn't matter if you've read Isaac Asimov's books or not. In fact, there's enough of a departure and enough of a development of characters and things that were not in the books. You don't need to have ever read his books to enjoy the series at all. It is wonderful and fantastic. So my treadmill show now is not a science fiction show. It's a dark comedy that a friend recommended to me called Barry.
Oh yeah.
Which is on Max. Oh my gosh. And so Barry, the simple thing is he's a hitman who wants to be an actor, which is just ridiculous. And the thing though I'll say about him being a hitman to start off with was
Don't go into an audition against Barry though. You should
no, maybe
go
not.
the other.
Is his tagline, I'd kill to get this role?
Oh,
well,
man.
because it's in some ways you think it's a little Dexter-ish like, except for the way he became a hitman is he was a Marine who didn't adjust well to coming back. And so then those skills got used to take care of bad guys. At least that's how it started.
Okay.
He's a likable character because you can imagine, this is a Marine who now he's taking care of bad guys, but things ensue. Anyway, it is a great show, and I'm dying to get on the treadmill. But no, what I left the Zoom call to go is like a weekend or two ago, we took a ride up. There's this wonderful, amazing bookstore in Pennsylvania called Cupboard. Can't say the word cupboard books. It's so cute. They have cats running around the store. The cats like pretty much own the place. The cats have written books, but it's a mostly used bookstore. They've been carrying new books for a while. It's just a really interesting, fascinating place. And I managed to come away with several, I think, talking to Keith and Dayton and meeting those guys last year has reignited my interest in the Star Trek novels, which when I was a high school and college student, I would devour. So I think I'm going back. So I got Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Section 31. I haven't read these books yet.
I haven't read it, but I remember that cover. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Star Trek Next Generation crossover. And this is one by Michael Jan Friedman.
Classic.
Star Trek, an original Star Trek adventure, Vulcan by Kathleen Sky. And I think I've read with an introduction by David Gerald, who we've talked to. And I think I've read other books by her. But then, of course, it isn't all Star Trek all the time when it comes to reading. So there was this other interesting one. It's called Furthest by Suzette Hayden Elgin. And I was actually just looking for older stuff that was written by women. And so I found something.
Oh, cool.
But outside of these like physical books, I just finished an amazing audiobook called Kitty Cat Kill Sat.
Oh, you mentioned that before.
For fans of John Scalzi's like starter villain who loved the character Hera, would love this kind of thing.
Another friend of the show, John Scalzi.
Yep. Now, Kitty Cat Kill Sat, I'll have to say, it was a little long for I feel like it could have been just as awesome if it was like 2/3 the length that it was, but it was great. And then I listened to another book called Pet, which is a little more fantasy than science fiction, and a little bit more YA. And I don't even know how I can describe it, but it was very disturbing, but in that good kind of way. And then the last one is from my writers group. We do like a White Elephant book exchange at the end of the year. So I'm reading through one that I got there. It's I think it's pronounced Synopticon, and it's writing short stories by Chinese authors that were translated into English.
Wow.
It's an anthology of that, and it's I'm maybe about halfway through. Some of the stories I like a lot. Some of them, not so much, just not my taste. But some of them I really do like a lot. It's very, very cool, very different. And it was in the White Elephant book exchange. I'm really happy I walked away with it because it was one that everyone in the room wanted. So I did promise I would get it done soon so I could pass it on to other members of the group.
Good.
And that's it.
Wow.
Ooh-ya. Ooh-ya. All right.
That was a lot. How do you do all that with the job you have, being a mom? You just make time for what's important.
Well, no, I just make reading has always been a hobby, and one of the reasons why I have hard copies, I have Audible, I have digital is so, and I'm in the middle of several books at a time. Is no matter what situation I'm in. If I have 10 minutes to listen or 10 minutes to just grab my phone for the ebook, or if I happen to just be on the couch, whatever situation I'm in, I can grab some book and make a little bit of progress. And the fact that this is something that I deeply enjoy, if reading with a schlog, then I wouldn't do it. I love reading. So you make the time for the things that you care about and you love.
Absolutely.
I was just starting to think all your clocks have 25 hours on them.
Oh, I wish. Oh, you have no idea
doing Bajoran
how
time.
much I wish for that.
Only 26 hours.
Yeah. But that's true. I mean, it's finding time to do that, to fit that all in, and just have some, no time where you just have nothing. You just
no time,
rest.
Nothing. What?
I know. Okay.
I don't have that. Other people might have that. But the other thing I'll say about these hard copy books that I just came away with, so I really get through a lot of digital and audiobooks in a given year. I get through very few hard copy books. So these books might sit here for a long time before I touch them. And for two reasons. One, collecting books and reading books are two different hobbies. And two, the audio and the digital, because I always have my phone with me, they are always available. So if I'm like 10 minutes waiting online somewhere, I can always read a little digital. The hard copies just pretty much, unless I'm deliberately going somewhere where I know I can bring the book to read, I never bring them out of the house. So I make so little progress on them.
Which audio service do you use or subscribe to for your books?
So I do primarily subscribe and pay for Audible.
Okay.
But also my local library. I am connected with all the library through, it used to be Overdrive, now it's Libby, is something. But I also try to do my library too.
Yeah, because my daughter Jenny, she has an hour drive from work, to work, and then and so she's gotten Audible, and she says she loves it. She just absolutely adores it because she's able to enjoy all these books while she's in traffic and listening, letting an hour go by. And so if you have time to do that, it's a great way to enjoy. Or folks, if you're stuck in traffic, may I recommend the Big Sci-Fi podcast available
absolutely
through the audio system of your car if it is a Bluetooth.
I do. Can I jump in here real quick? Because speaking of audiobooks, Spotify has now opened up their premium accounts to having some audiobook options. And there is a ton of Star Trek options and Star Wars in there as well. And I've been listening to Heir to the Empire, which is an all-time classic Star Wars novel that opened the universe up after Return of the Jedi in a big way. It really expanded that universe. And that's by Timothy Zahn. And it's a fantastic listen. And then also listening to Rogue Squadron by Michael A. Stackpole, which is them trying to rebuild Rogue Squadron after Return of the Jedi. With new pilots and build. And that is also I was playing Legos with my son Brody Tiberius and listening to that, and it's fantastic as well. Really well narrated and acted, and so check those out.
Excellent. Well, for myself, finally having finished The Robot Galaxy, because I wasn't going to read anything after that, I am now reading Andy Weir's book, Project Hail Mary. And I love his writing style. I love his writing because it's almost like he's in the room talking to you in his writing style. It's matter of fact. It's not, the room was black, the ceiling crinkled with he doesn't do that. He spends more time going, well, let's see, I'm trying to calculate where I am right now. So the gravitational pull of this and blah, blah, blah. And he does all the math and stuff. And it's like, wow, it's like I'm getting a math test or a math exam while I'm reading his book. But it's also very, very spoken word. And I like that style of writing. And I like him. So, yeah.
He does first person very, very well. And a lot of people don't. It's really hard to do. I actually have been thinking about one of my future things, doing it in first person. And it's frankly, it's a little intimidating. Although I do a lot of short stories in first person, or I have done. But that he does that so well.
Yeah, I really do.
I'm so glad you're reading that. And anyone listening, that is absolutely anyone who's in any way, shape, or form, I think attached to the science fiction literary community in the last couple of years have probably heard a lot of people say a lot of amazing things about that book and recommend that book.
Because it's interesting. It starts off with, the problem, or it's actually starts off, you don't know where he is, and it's an adventure. And then you've got backstory that he puts into it. And it's just, and you can follow it, when he's transitioning from backstory to current to all that and how it all ties in. He's a remarkable author, and he's only, this is his second book? Is that right? Third book?
At least his third.
What was it then besides
in between Project Hail Mary and The Martian, there was one called Artemis.
Oh, okay.
Not good. I
Mhm.
liked it. Not as good as the other. Nowhere near as good as the other two.
Okay, then that's good. I'm 32, and also, you talk about doing your exercises. I'm on our elliptical machine. I've been catching up or rewatching some of my favorite episodes of the second season of Strange New Worlds, and
Nice.
I just remind yeah, there's certain episodes in that second season I just absolutely could watch again and again and again. Charade, tomorrow, Subspace Rhapsody. There are just so many gems in this season that it's fun to rewatch it. So if you haven't watched those episodes, get to it, kids.
Because then you can rewatch
Definitely.
it.
That's
Yeah.
right, exactly.
True.
What about you, Chris?
It's been a mix. So I've been doing my thing where I've been bouncing back and forth between shows. So I've been bouncing back and forth between Blue Bloods, Troll Hunters on Netflix, which is really good.
Troll
And it also
Okay.
has a sci-fi element. There's like a sci-fi, like set in the same universe with a sci-fi like story.
Oh, we were watching that for a
Um,
while.
Which is this?
What's his name?
This is,
Frasier is in it.
what?
Kelsey Grammer.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's in the alien one.
The Troll Hunters. If it's the same one, it's an animated thing that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, so it's by how do you say his name? Guillermo
Yeah.
del Toro.
Kelsey
Yeah.
Grammer
Oh,
is the one with a whole bunch of he's with like a whole bunch of eyes.
Okay, that's been bothering me. I've been trying to figure out his voice is so familiar, but I couldn't place him.
That's who. Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense. Yeah, it's been
That's
like Dill got
interesting.
me into it, and it's just like one of those shows where it's a lot more, it has a lot more depth than what I expected. So it's been really good. And then I've been watching A Different World with her, which is like the
Okay, spin-off from
Uh,
Cosby.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's old.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's fun watching. Like she says the same thing about when we watch Trek together. I'll pause and I'll be like, "Oh, here's this context," but she does that with A Different World, so I'll like get more context of the show. So I've been doing that. Also, I've been doing this thing, where I recently got some Apple AirPods, and they're great. But like, if you have access to them, you have to try them with Star Trek because it's just elevated how good the audio, like how great the audio design is in Trek. Like I was listening to Voyager a lot, and I say listening because we'll put it on at night and then just walk around and do stuff. But there's something about season 5 where they really improved their audio design. And I was having a nap on Christmas, like over the Christmas break, and I had the AirPods in. And at one point I got freaked out because I'm like, man, it really does sound like Tuvok and Chakotay are having a conversation in my room.
Right.
And it was wild. Yeah, so that's
so
where
it picks
I've been.
up. It picks up the split then.
It picks up the
It
split,
picks
but
up
it also
like the right, left, and there's
yeah.
that
So it's
nuance.
like you can hear them moving throughout the room,
Mhm.
and when you're not paying attention, it can be really awesome, but like slightly disorienting. Like, wait, are they actually here? Is somebody
Yeah.
talking to me?
You know, a lot of people
Um,
don't understand sound design, especially when you watch a film in your living room or off your phone. You get a different experience than you do in a movie
Yeah.
theater. In a movie
Mhm.
theater, you will hear crickets chirping over
Oh.
on
Mhm.
this side, or you'll
Mhm.
hear, someone walks in and it may actually sound like they're walking from the direction that you're seeing it on the screen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's incredible sound design, and theaters are usually designed to pick that up
Oh,
and
yeah.
have that be a part of the experience. And when you watch it just on your TV, unless maybe you have a great surround sound
Well,
system.
Years
Yeah.
ago, before I had kids, I was committed to having an awesome, and I did for a while have a nice 6.1 surround sound
Mhm.
system.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Before I had kids, these days I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's not true. That's not true. If someone else were to do all the work and figure it all out and set it all up, where I just all I had to do is like come down and sit on the couch and watch, I'd care and I'd appreciate it. But I used to be that person that wanted to set it up, wanted to figure out, which receiver am I buying, what set of speakers am I buying, and
Mhm.
I can't do that.
I think a lot of parents at Dina, why I laugh so hard, is a lot of parents get to that point in life where a response is, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not me. I mean, I remember going into, I believe it was Best Buys out here, and it might have been Circuit City before it went out of business, and going into a soundproof room where they had a 5.1 channel stereo system. And he said, "You want to hear this really good?" And he pops in Jurassic Park.
Oh, that would be cool.
Tyrannosaurus Rex first appears, and you are hearing it around you. And I went, okay, I got to buy this. I have to buy a surround sound. And I've always had a surround, and I do appreciate that because it really does. Even just regular TV shows or sporting events, when you get the background speakers, it really makes a difference. And whenever we turn it off, it's weird. It doesn't feel right. So good audio makes. So it's interesting what you're saying about Voyager, because I don't know if that was done in 5-channel when it was originally on television.
Yeah, I'm not.
It might have only been on stereo, but they might have digitally broken up the channels to give you that enhancement that you're enjoying.
I don't know, but it's like fun if you like get headphones and just like, even if it's not AirPods, just whatever. If you go to, I'd say, last episode of season 4, compare that, listen to it for a little bit. That's Hope and Fear, and then you jump into episode 1 of season 5, which is Night. There's a huge difference, and I noticed it especially with Chakotay's voice. Like I feel like him and Tuvok, you really hear the difference in the mic quality. But like Trek has always done such a good job of developing the background noises. Like even Captain Proton's rocket ship has a very distinct ambient noise that I never heard before. Where it's like, if you're listening, you go, "Oh, that's Captain Proton's rocket ship. Oh, we're in sickbay now. Oh, we're on this specific bridge."
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Fox is destined to become a filmmaker.
I want to.
Just all this talk about
Just
audio.
There is no want. There is only do.
Well, no, there's yes, you're correct. But it's like, I need more time. I mean, because I have my script ready to go. I just need to be in the class.
It takes time. Again, it takes time. Big goals. You take time. It takes time to execute.
I mean, physically, to make the film, I have to wait till VLP 707 or whatever the course code is.
Sure.
Right.
So it's coming. But I did enter that. I think I told you guys off air. I did enter my short documentary into the film festival for Toronto Film School. Yep. So I'm excited. We'll see if I get in.
That's great.
We're pulling for you, Chris. We're pulling for you.
So that'll be fun.
So what's funny about that you mentioned, the sound and how well Trek has always done. So over the past weekend, my youngest, who's 5, comes in one morning and is like, "Mom, can we watch Star Trek?" And after I wiped away the tears, I mean, like, I don't know why my older son doesn't do this, but yes, but he sometimes does it. And we were watching, actually, he had been sick the week before, and we watched like an episode of Prodigy. And I asked him, is that what he wanted to watch? And he's like, "No, Mom, I want to watch your Star Trek." So we put on, I picked an episode of the original series. I picked Journey to Babel.
Oh, that's a good one.
Cool.
Yeah. And it was funny because he was really noticing and asked me about the sounds in it, which was, impressive. I thought, kind of an odd thing. I was not expecting him to pick up. Now, he was also completely and utterly freaked out when Kirk got stabbed by the Andorian. And I had to explain to him that was one bad Andorian. Not all Andorians are bad, and they're different. Because I have a picture.
Actually a spy?
Yeah,
because the antennas were fake.
He
wasn't a real Andorian. Yes,
he wasn't, right. But the thing is I have a picture behind me of a certain Andorian engineer that we all love. And 2 days later, my little one was in my office and just looking around my office, and his eyes, when he saw that, he's like, "Mommy, is he a bad guy?" Like, no, that's our friend. You met the you actually met the actor and everything like that too. And I had explained to him that not all, just like it's like not all humans are bad when you see bad ones.
Right.
Not all Andorians are bad either.
What's unique about that episode about Babel is at the very end of the episode they drop the fourth wall. Because that's when McCoy looks directly into the camera and says, "What do you know? I got the last word." And he says that to the audience.
I never really took that as a fourth wall. I mean, I always took that.
Yeah, he looks at the camera, but yeah.
I'm going to watch it and see.
Yeah. He
myself.
drops the fourth wall is dropped. He looked like he talks directly to us, the viewer. That he says, "What do you know? I got the last word."
Yeah, I never interpreted it. I know what you're talking about, but I always interpret it as like it's as if he's looking right at, because the thing is they do a lot of shot, like a lot of times, especially in modern TV, we see over the shoulder shots where in original Star Trek, they do a lot of like pretty much like kind of almost straight on face shot. So I always took it as this is just a straight on face shot. He's talking to whoever's sitting in front of him.
Okay.
Next week
But
on the
I
Big
can see that.
Sci-Fi podcast,
We'll delve into.
we'll finish
Dirty
this
the battle.
debate and decide who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah,
It's a great
I'm sorry, I
episode,
go
no
back,
matter
'cause
what.
I love
It is. It really is. It's a wonderful episode, and I mean, there's a lot of subplots, and that's what Star Trek was always driven on.
Right.
Hey, here's an interesting thing. Since we're going to step away from Star Trek for a second, for the fans of the Mandalorian, instead of having another season, they're going to make a Mandalorian movie with baby Yoda. What's his name again?
Grogu.
Grogu. So they're going the movie route now, which
Well,
Well,
that
what do you think
good
now?
or is that
I feel like
better
they had
or
announced
worse?
a bunch of movies, but they didn't have all the details. They just knew that they were going to contract for a bunch of movies, and now they're just giving us some more of the details. But
because there hasn't been a Star Trek movie since the last
Star
of the
Wars.
JJs. Star Wars, excuse me. Whoops, sorry. Yes,
There hasn't been a Star Trek movie in a while, too.
Yeah. a long
exactly.
time.
And they're, still,
2016.
working on that number 4. They're supposed to be working on the JJ.
And now
Hasn't
there's
been that
Picard
long.
too, but let's go back to Mando for a second
Right.
first, because we brought us to Mando.
Because they
think-
left. Go ahead, Adina.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't think it necessarily precludes whether, because it says in the article that it is unclear where the upcoming film will fit into the timeline of the live action series, which has aired 3 seasons and is currently in development of the 4th.
Oh,
So there is-
they are good.
Yeah.
I missed that. Okay.
And so we don't know, I don't think that any of the film development is precluding any additional continuation of any of the series that they were already planning.
It
Like,
might
Okay.
just be a epic story,
Yeah.
one-time story of.
But the question will be, will it be on Disney Plus for that viewing, or will they end up actually putting it in the theater? That'll be
I
as
bet theater.
interesting.
I think
yeah.
if they're
I'm
doing
sure
it in
it'll
the
be back
movie,
in the
they'll
theater.
come out in
Yeah.
theater. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, because they ended season 3 with literally he's on the farm, Grogu's
Oh, right.
looking
I
for
forgot.
frogs and whatever, and he's got his feet up, and it's almost like, he's the retired gunslinger. But now, again, like you said, it may be in between story that was during the 3 seasons, or it's well, and it's going to be John Favreau. He's going to be doing it, so it'll be done right, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find Star Wars, like, as much as I love it, it is hard to keep track of the timelines because there's so many shows that are all over the place. Like, you've got Rebels, which is before the original trilogy, but I don't know if it's like around the same time or shortly after Andor. But then you have Ahsoka, which is sort of a sequel to Rebels, but it's in the time of Mandalorian, which is set after Return of the Jedi, but before.
you need the chart.
sequel
There are
trilogy.
some charts
You need
you
the
can find
chart,
online,
exactly.
and you need the chart.
Yeah, you need the chart.
Now, I'm dying. Like last year, we, a little over a year ago, we talked about Andor season 1, and we left off where it was amazing. And when the heck is Andor season 2 coming out? Because
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I've
I've been
left
trying
us
to watch
arranged
Rebels.
My schedule for Andor too.
Yeah, I've been trying to watch Rebels. It's not. It will grab me for moments, but then it has annoying moments, which this is one of the reasons why years ago I tried reading the novels and I couldn't read the novels. And now again, I hear great things about Timothy Zahn, who is since then, I'm talking so pre him. And the problem I have is in that franchise, they seem to like to reiterate classic lines again and again and again.
Yep.
And it's like every time we see C-3PO in any new scene, he has to mention, I'm a protocol droid. But like, it's the same lines. Like, come on. And in the books that I was reading years ago, it was like, and when we stormed when we blew up the Death Star, it's like, yes, okay, they're doing that way too much.
The line that they abuse is, "I got a bad feeling about."
But that's
this.
always been the case.
It's been
though.
throughout every character says that.
It was that one is different.
Yeah.
I feel like that because having different characters do it, that to me is a little bit more of the cutesy way of kind of propagating something, where to have the same character kind of repeat their own history. It's like, yes, dude, we know you're a protocol droid. You tell us, you tell everybody, to me, so there's a little bit of a difference there, but that franchise is really guilty of overdoing that stuff.
It's funny. I try to watch Rebels, and I don't know, just the animation or the way the characters are drawn, or it just, even though my son-in-law, he says it's the greatest thing, it's the best Star Wars ever. I can't get into it. I really
love
terrible.
Bad Batch. I think Bad
Batch is
Bad
great.
Batch is really
I
good.
love Bad Batch.
I haven't seen the new season though.
And I like Clone Wars too, although Clone Wars was almost too short at half an hour or 20 minutes, whatever it ended up being, minus the commercials it originally aired in. And it, so I have mixed feelings about Clone Wars. I really liked it. It was, especially when there was no Star Wars for a little while, to have that was really cool.
Yeah.
But I think I definitely, as far as the animated stuff, Star Wars, I prefer Bad Batch head over heels above everything.
Or even the Lego Star Wars.
I laugh hysterically at that.
Very
stuff.
funny. That's where you poke fun at yourself and you have fun doing it. And that's really good stuff.
It's funny, like the repeating of the lines never really made me like upset. The only thing that but where I did find some, even though they have to win for the story to progress, it's almost like they beat the Empire so easily to the point where I just felt bad for Agent Callus. It's like, how many times is he going to fail? And Governor, whatever her name is, of Lothal, it's just like, I know they're bad guys, but man, they're just they lose all the time. But when you get to Thawne and he shows up, it's like, okay, that's actually really cool. And I liked his character a lot.
Speaking of Star Trek,
we were.
That's pretty good.
We're jamming here, folks. I got to watch a very special movie on New Year's Eve with my in-laws, with a couple brother-in-laws, and my wife walked into the room at one point, saw what we were watching, and said nope, and walked right back off. Although she's seen the film and has enjoyed it once, but she's usually a one-and-done movie person anyways, except for White Christmas and a few Christmas movies. And White Christmas, by the way, is about the most perfect film ever made, if you ask me. So, but I digress. We watched on New Year's Eve. I somehow pulled this off, folks.
Nice.
Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Very good.
And it looked beautiful. Whatever version I remember seeing last, I don't remember it being so crisp looking. So it must have been an HD, version or an updated version. And it looked fantastic. And so that was kind of fun. My wife and I have really been enjoying season 2 of Reacher. Have you guys watched that on Prime?
I keep seeing clips, and I watched this scene.
My husband's watching that.
I'm in. I want to watch it because I'm like, there was one where he walks up to people that are watching him and he kicks the car and it sets off the airbag, and I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really. It's so good. My wife wants to grab the start into the novels about it, because I guess there's a whole series of books around this character. It's a fun show, and season 1 and 2 are different from each other too, which is nice.
Oh, that's cool.
They really have a different angle on season 2 that we've been enjoying. I've also been watching, and this is kind of like getting on the train with the rest of the crowd, watching Suits. We were on season 5.
Nice. Okay.
And so I always enjoy going back to Suits. Got a lot there. And then I think I shared with you guys before, we watched The Creator recently.
Right.
Which is the film by Gareth Edwards. And highly recommend that film. Someday we will talk about it. I do want to see that. I think that film will one day become one of the best science fiction films of all time. It will be something that we talk about as a must-see science fiction film.
Interesting.
And that's how much I liked it, at least. I've been reading Strangers from the Sky by Margaret Wander Bonanno, a classic.
That's one of my
Trek
favorite
film, or
ones
Trek
from
book.
like when
Yeah.
I was. Oh,
Now, I've
yes.
listened to the audiobook
Mhm.
that George Takei narrated,
Mhm.
but it's incredibly adapted. It's a very short, I think it was only a
Yeah.
two-sided cassette tape. So in the book, when I got it, my in-laws gifted me a ton of Star Trek novels and a few hardbacks that they found at an auction. I mean, they're in pristine condition, like only read once. Blew my mind. I almost, that they thought I was faking my excitement. It must have been so. But I did not realize Strangers from the Sky was such a thick little novel. And so having been a fan of George Takei's, I think it's George Takei who narrated the audiobook.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure you're correct about that. Because I went into an exploration of, I wanted to see all the ones he narrated until I realized how abridged they all are. And then I was like, and I think it was because they wanted to fit it on a cassette, back in the day.
And some of them are like, I've got a novel here. My favorite Star Trek novel up until this point, now I've got a bunch more to read to see if it's still my favorite, is Shadows on the Sun by Michael Jan Friedman, who's also going to be at Trek Long Island. And I'm going to take this copy and see if I can't get a little Michael Jan Friedman signature. But and is that, and Adina's holding up a crossover.
One of the ones I mentioned at the beginning of the show today. But to see, I'm excited to dive into this book more. I'm only a few chapters in and I'm already loving it. So that also, guys, I'm a new Frasier fan.
Oh yeah, you were saying
I've been watching a lot of
you've
Frasier
mentioned
lately.
that before.
I have. Okay, I'm sorry, but I think it's gonna become my new treadmill. Which, I mean, I need to just start on the treadmill anyways. I keep talking about it, but if I'm going to have a treadmill show, I think it's going to be Frasier.
So I always ask you, this is OG Frasier, or are you watching like the new?
This is. I've watched the new Frasier and I love it. I'm not a hater of the new show. I think it's great. It's different, but it's still got the charm in different ways. And you get through the first couple episodes, for sure, but that's like almost any series. Sometimes it takes a while to
warm up to them. Sure,
and that's a series where by the end I'm fully loving the show, and then but I think we're on season 3 of the original.
So
Frasier.
here's the
and
thing.
They do a ton of Star Trek references in that show too, by the way.
Cool.
Well,
I'm going to try to give you a challenge. I'm going to hold you accountable. You are not allowed from here on out to watch Frasier unless you're on your treadmill. Done.
I'm shaking in my boots over here. Yes,
it's like a little carrot in front.
If you want to watch it, you have to watch it while you're on the treadmill.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
Deal. Well, and one more thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sure. No,
but I cannot. It would be terrible if I miss this. I saw over the Christmas holiday after New Year, I think, with my family, the new Wonka film.
Yep.
It is really good. It is a total family film. There's nothing in it that should shy families away from going to see it. And Timothée Chalamet is tremendous in it. The previews. It's one of those films where, excuse me, I was excited about it because maybe they're going to do a cool take on it. But I was also concerned as a Willy Wonka fan, the original movie, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. What was it called? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
That's the Tim Burton one. Was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
All right, so the original film. Anyways, love that movie. Always did as a kid. Watched it over and over as a kid. And the trailers for this film just made it look a little too weird, in my opinion. Like it looked cheesy. You watch this film, it is so charming. It is so well done. It's got a great ensemble cast. It's got just some amazing stuff in it. So highly recommend that. Okay.
I was going to say that you watched Wrath of Khan New Year's Eve. My wife and I went to the theater and watched the movie Ferrari. And
Ooh.
Adam Driver is such a good actor.
Yes, he is.
The man could play a telephone pole, and you'd love his performance as a telephone pole. But he becomes Ferrari. If you have any interest in the history of racing, this movie is a snippet of the life of Ferrari and a moment when he was afraid he was going to lose his company, and the type of racing that went on and the risk that the drivers took. It's a beautifully filmed film. You watch it and you go, it's great, and you get the insight as to the life of Ferrari, the man who was El Commodore. He was the king of racing, and it's a wonderful film. So I do recommend that one at the
I gotta talk
theater.
to Dill then. She's like the racing buff in the.
Then she will love it. She will love it. It is great. You learn so much about who he was and where he was in the 50s and the risks and the dangers of racing in that era when the only roll cage a race car had was the driver's head.
Oh,
jeez.
Yes.
Because I got into when I saw, like, I think everybody liked Ford v Ferrari, but I got into that and I'm like, I want to know more about this. Not, I should say universe, but like this, I don't know what you'd call it, but more
rivalry.
About the car world. Yeah.
No, that's where Ford wanted to buy Ferrari. Ferrari said, no, I'm not going to sell you. And said, fine, then we're going to beat you. And it was an amazing story about that. And again, great acting in that as well.
Hey, guys.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you were stuck on a desert island, what music album would you take with you?
Like
one record. Let's just one record, Adina.
I thought
record,
about
not
this.
CD. Oh.
It could be a CD. It could just one. It could
Can it be a
one
homemade CD
LP?
where I put my favorite?
No,
it has to be.
No, doing
it's funny
that.
because I've been thinking about this because of the Shuttle Pod show, and I have my answer. Well, mostly.
Well, you guys answer first. I got to think.
I can answer in
this.
2 seconds. I can tell you in 2 seconds. Martini Ranch.
What?
By Bill Paxton. His band Martini Ranch.
Huh.
The album is called Holy Cow. The band was from the 1980s. They filmed a music video that James Cameron did right after they were done making the movie Aliens, and he did for their song Reach. I always loved his music. I thought it was just great. When I went to, there's a record store here called Freak Beak where they sell old albums. And I walked in there one time and I said, I'm looking for something. He says, well, I said, you probably don't have an idea. I'm looking for Holy Cow by Martini Ranch. He goes, oh, you mean this? It was like I found the Holy Grail, and I have that album. It is a remarkable piece of music. I love the band. They are so 1980s. I can listen to it over and over and over again.
Wait. They are so 1980s. You can listen to something that is so 1980s over and over again, but you don't like Africa by Toto.
Okay.
It is so 1980s that a lot of people listen to over and over.
But it's not Martini Ranch. And here's the sad thing. I was at a funeral of a film producer, and Bill Paxton was there because Bill Paxton had directed a movie called The Greatest Game Ever Played that this producer had bankrolled. And I didn't have a chance to walk up to him and thank him for the band and for his music and his acting and all his contribution to the arts. And then he passed away. And so I wrote a letter to the LA Times just saying how much I appreciated his music from Martini Ranch. And please give it a name.
That's the name of the
band is called Martini Ranch.
And what's the name of the song again?
Just go with Reach.
Okay, I got it. Okay. I found it on Spotify. I'm going to listen to it.
Give it a listen.
Later on this week.
That you asked me without a question. That's it right there. Obscure, cool band of the 1980s.
Okay. How about that?
This is where I'm stuck because I love the 80s. We all know this. But I think if I had to pick, because there's so many like 80s songs that I love, but I don't know that I love full albums. So this is where I've got 3 album choices because I'm
Wait
For
a
me, it
minute,
would be-
Chris. Wait a minute.
He's
I'm not
quoting
gonna- I'm not
Adina.
gonna-
Pretty stern with Adina.
No, I'm not picking one. I'm just telling you
Okay.
where I am right now, and I'm hoping to
Okay.
narrow it and hoping to pick one by the end
Okay.
of the episode. But like, it's just such a weird thing. But I love the Black Eyed Peas,
they're
and
great.
I feel like their albums, like they're the only musical group where I can listen to an album that's not the greatest hits and love almost every song on there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to narrow it down between L Funk, Monkey Business, and The End. So I'll try and come back later
Okay.
once everybody else goes, because I can't decide other those three. They all have very specific memories for me. Like
Mhm.
The End was what I listened to 2009, the summer before university, when I was doing this individual learning math course or individualized math course that I had to do so I could do stats.
Mm.
And I would chew 5 gum every day while listening to it.
Okay. Come on, Brian. What about you? Since you asked the question.
And I'm feeling stuck.
Oh, great. That's like saying, what's your
such a
favorite food?
hypocrite.
I don't know what I like to eat. I don't know.
Right. I feel like that's because it's music is so moody with how you feel and how do you thinking about what you'll want on a desert island. This is really one of those impossible questions.
It could be a soundtrack. It could be a soundtrack to a film.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
I love that, but I also like lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking through my Spotify list. And I'm trying to determine, do I go with Sinatra, James Taylor? Do I
Cat Stevens?
or do I go with, I'm gonna I want Adina to go before I go now.
I can try, but I'm not going to necessarily, have a great answer. Although I want to pick up a thread that Chris started laying down, which I think is a very important thing. Is so during the course of the several decades of my life where I've had access to music, to listen to music, you go through periods of time where you're like completely into something.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, whenever I think of anything, it's really associated with a certain time period in my life, possibly, what I was doing, where I was working, what my relationship was, all those kinds of things. And so it's really hard to pick anything without evoking a specific memory. And so what you're asking, when you're asking us to pick one for the desert island, you're asking us, what memory do you want to kind of revisit over and over? And that's what makes this really, for me, that's what makes it really hard, is because I don't necessarily want the memory associated with it. Because not all of them are good. So there was this is going to be the weirdest story I've probably ever told anyone. So I, for a long time, and I guess technically still am, I don't talk about this anymore because I really actually don't listen to the music anymore. I am a humongous Frank Zappa fan.
Okay.
You're not going to eat some yellow snow?
No, I do not. I absolutely watch Where the Huskies Go, and I do not eat the yellow snow. Yeah, so no, I'm a humongous Zappa fan, thanks to a couple friends from high school for that. But the problem is there was a point in time where I was in a relationship with this guy, and he was also a huge Frank Zappa fan. And so that kind of, for a long time after that relationship ended, I couldn't listen to Zappa because it reminded me of him. So I tried to, at some point then, for myself, do a Take Back the Zappa campaign. Because it's like, look, I was a fan of this before I even met that guy. This, it's not fair that now every time I listen to it and everything. But I don't think I was entirely successful because I don't really listen to it much anymore. But that also could be, it's not appropriate for young kids. So that might be why I'm not listening to it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's all of that is to delay answering your actual question.
So to continue this theme of delaying.
Go ahead,
so
Chris.
there's a song, really amazing song called Suit by Boom Bop Pow. And it was featured. I think the reason I got into this was because it was in an ad, a 2015 ad for Diet Coke. Great ad. Great song. And then I went on a date. Date was amazing. So I just blasted the heck out of this song on my way back. That relationship did not end well. So now it's like I still
you can't listen to
to
that
it.
song anymore.
It still is
You
on
do?
rotation
Yeah.
because I'm determined to incorporate a new memory with it.
Okay, that's good.
But it's
That's
definitely
good.
one of those things where I'm like, it stings a little bit when it comes on.
Right.
But
That's
it's still really
exactly it.
good. So I'm like, it's so catchy.
So in general, I'm a very big classic rock fan, and I'm a big fan of rock, like Indigo Girls stuff, and Sarah McLachlan stuff and everything. But and where I have gone periods of time where, like, for days or weeks, that's all I would listen to. Like you just pick one of those. That's the CD you have in, and you're just listening to that. But just to pick one of those and be like, that's it. It's why I want to make my own mixtape.
So right, mixtapes are fantastic for that reason. You can have all sorts of different moods.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to get Adina to once on the history of the big sci-fi. Just pick one thing though, but
not today.
I'm gonna jump in, Adina, okay? Because I think I'm gonna go with the sentimental thing here. Okay.
Okay.
I'm choosing an artist called Pat Barrett, who's a Christian artist. And he's written many songs that are sung in churches throughout the world now. But he had an album. Let me see if I can say when the album actually came out, what year. Came out in 2018. And you guys know I'm a pastor and stuff, but during that, the pandemic was very hard on pastors, as it was a lot of different people. Half the time, half the people were mad at you for decisions you were making concerning all the COVID stuff and what have you. And this album is just self-titled. Pat Barrett has about 5 songs on it that, in my lowest moments where I felt alone or discouraged, this had songs on it that really helped pull me through.
That's great.
Get me going. So sentimentally, I'm going to say that, but I'm like there's still songs that I still love to listen to. And even though that was a hard time, it's still, I felt like I made it through.
No, that's great.
So, but again, I mentioned Sinatra. I'm becoming a bigger Tony Bennett fan. And my wife and I both share a love for James Taylor. And
I love musicals.
That's kind of her going. Yeah.
There's musicals. There's certain jazz musicians that I love. There's certain classical music I love.
Yeah,
that's the. It's just. Ooh, can I pick one of each genre? Can we just have one of each genre?
One album of each genre.
Folks, we're not.
Like
this
a
is not going to be a
classical
two-parter
album,
episode.
a classic rock, a jazz.
Okay, so a quick song. How about I've got a song recommendation based off watching Reacher, season 2 of Reacher. Sometimes at the end of a show, especially Reacher. Now, Steve, you've talked about Prime having that great thing. When you're watching it, you can learn tidbits and see who the actors are.
Right,
it comes up
on their X-ray, they call it.
We're screencasting our phones to the TV for Prime and Paramount Plus often, my wife and I. And so on Prime, when I'm doing that, it shows which actor is in which scene and all that. And at the end of shows, oftentimes they'll have a song. And I loved this song so much by the artist Detroit, D/Troit, from his album Soul Sound System. But Cris, I think you would absolutely roll with this song.
You gotta send this in the
It's called
chat.
Roll with the Punches.
Roll with the Punches.
This is one of those songs I listened to it once and I go, I love that so much. I'm listening to it again right away.
That's good. That's good.
You know what's hilarious is there's a song that's on my playlist that I love because it was featured in the Jack Reacher 2 with Tom Cruise trailer called Bad Blood. And I'm like, it's another one of those this is so cool, and it's what a good song. But it's funny that Jack Reacher of all things is like, just they pick really good music.
I've got a great idea, because I think we're coming to the end of this jam session. Is maybe on our Facebook page we can all either post links, or if we want to put it all together in one post and you guys send it to me or whatever, and we can put it all together, maybe links to some of our favorite songs or albums and see what people think. Does that resonate with anybody?
Sure.
Why don't you
Yeah,
why
that'd
don't
be
you go
cool.
to
That'd be
Messenger right now and see where I just sent you the video for Reach by Martini Ranch? Because I
Okay, cool,
want you to
cool.
share that, but do the same thing. And it's amazing because music does that. You can if you're interested in a soundtrack, whatever. Like we just watched the movie Maestro that was on Netflix,
Ooh.
and Leonard Bernstein was a genius.
Mm-hmm.
He also was a troubled man, but he was a genius. And it's, you watch it, you listen to that music. And to me, one of my all-time favorite composers is Aaron Copland. And
yes.
And his Fanfare for the Common Man from the 1936 Olympics is to me one of the greatest pieces of music.
Mm.
And when there was when 9/11 happened, there was a concert in LA and they played Aaron Copland's music, and they opened in honor of the people who lost their lives in 9/11. They played Fanfare for the Common Man. And it's a piece of music that just, it's spirit lifting. It really is. So yeah, you can talk about certain pieces of music or whatever that just gets you going. And that's it, really.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys, my co-hosts, my friends, my compadres.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing from your heart and your souls tonight. It's been fun and it's been interesting. We should do this every now and then. Maybe once a season, we should at least have a jam session episode. This is kind of impromptu and fun. And I'm glad it turned out this way. We're looking forward to having our special guest on the show. Anyways, as we reschedule that, and we're gonna let that be a surprise to everybody as they listen. But you don't want to miss that. Until next time, guys, make sure that you are listening to the Big Sci-Fi Podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you to Trek Geeks Podcast Network for being a great network for us to be a part of. We are thrilled. We're excited to be a part of Trek Long Island Part 2 in May. So grab your tickets, grab your hotel, come and say hi, hang out with us. We're going to be recording a little bit there at the show and hosting some panels and doing Trek trivia on the main stage and just having a great time. You do not want to miss Trek Long Island. It is just going to be fabulous. We're so looking forward to it. Also, make sure you subscribe, you like, you share the heck out of us whenever you can. Spread the love to your neighbors, folks. And write a review if you're able to on your podcast plan as well. That'll do us a big favor. That was terrible English, but I don't care. It's getting late tonight.
Oh, the Queen's not going to complain about your English. It's quite all right. It's quite all right.
Hey, guys, make sure you're being kind to each other. There's so much war in this world. We need more peace. So be a peacemaker everywhere you go. Love more. Think twice before you complain, before you say something mean and nasty to somebody. Is it really worth it? Is it really going to help the situation? Think about it. Be kind and kiss your kids every night before you go to bed, too. And before I keep rattling off one-liners, I just want to say live long and prosper.